Hello everyone, hope you're all well. And today I'm up at the Pearse Museum, St Enda's in Rathfarnham, which is free to the public, so it's well worth a visit for anybody who wants to come up. And there's a bust here as well of Patrick Pearse, who was executed on the 3rd of May 1916. Here we are over 108 years later, and our sovereignty again is under huge attack. Patrick Pearse also wrote The Sovereign People, and he finished it less than a month before the Easter Rising in 1916, around the end of March. And in that, he spoke to the national independence of Ireland, invokes the national sovereignty. So he was a huge proponent of standing up for Irish independence, Irish sovereignty, Irish freedom, Irish democracy, like many more of the signatories of the proclamation as well, who stood up for the rights we have today, and many more people in previous generations. We look back to Tone, Vincent Lawler, and many more fantastic revolutionaries. And now, more than ever, we see a huge attack on our sovereignty, especially with the EU Migration Pact. This EU Migration and Asylum Pact has got copper fastened by the European Union and is now going to get rammed through Dáil Éireann, guillotined through in the next number of days. There's going to be a debate on Tuesday. It's going to take about 5 hours. It's going to just be rubber stamped, and it's going to be pushed on then through the Senate, and they're going to try and force it through, which will come into law in Ireland in the next number of months. Now, of course, we had the local elections, European elections recently, and this wasn't a big talking point because this was pushed to the side, which suited the political narrative at the time. But again, this has huge ramifications for Irish sovereignty and Irish democracy, because we can see the fast tracking of this migration pact without any proper debate, without any pre-legislative scrutiny. And again, it's been reminiscent of Ireland's response to the bank bailout, for instance, where they bowed down to their masters in Brussels rather than serve the interests of the people here in Ireland. Now, there is a solidarity pact as part of this, where Ireland are going to be part of if they opt into this treaty. But of course, with the Lisbon Treaty before, there was an opt-out clause, Protocol 21, which Ireland had never opted out of. But again, Ireland, the political establishment, are more interested in ceding our sovereignty to the bureaucrats in Brussels and the big corporations rather than the interests of the people. And they're talking about the border procedure and all this sort of stuff. Now, other countries have opted out, such as Denmark. Even Iceland are looking at opting out also as well. And the control of your borders and the control of your policy is a basic premise of a sovereign country, which is critically important. Just take a seat here and look up at the lovely museum. I'll bring you for a walk around the gardens in a minute. This year, over 1 billion is going to be spent on international protection, and it's actually €28,000 per international protection applicant, which doesn't include food and doesn't include the welfare, not included obviously as well, which has a huge effect on our national debt. And as well, the Irish government are looking to extend the temporary directive for Ukraine until the end of March, I think, 2026. Now, we've seen Simon Harris in the last number of days going over to this peace summit. You have to laugh, because the peace summit is supposed to involve the people involved in the conflict, but of course Russia aren't invited to this. So they have this Ready Up summit that's going to bow down to the interests of the neoliberals in the United States, in the European Union, and the neocons also as well, who are pushing this warmongering agenda rather than seeking peace. Now, in the Irish Constitution, it states that Ireland should seek pacific settlements to international disputes. But again, there is no interest in pushing this from the Irish political establishment, especially the pathetic leader we have in Simon Harris, who's more interested in bowing down to his masters in Washington DC, his masters in Brussels, than serving the interests of people, which flies in the face of our sovereignty. And also, this would have huge constitutional ramifications, which should be taken into account also as well. But again, will you have any political representatives standing up about the constitutionality claims of this in terms of our right to sovereignty and the right to the policy deriving from the people of the state? I've said that many times in my videos, Article 6 of the Constitution. And again, if we see this is just death by a thousand cuts of our sovereignty. And again, it's just more power being ceded to centralised European Union, to the European Commission, people like Ursula von der Leyen, who work on behest of the big corporations and the billionaires rather than the interests of the people. So more than ever, we need to stand up against what's going on in Irish society, stand up for our sovereignty, stand up for community sovereignty. So I urge you to contact your TDs, contact all your public representatives, contact anybody you think who can exert a bit of power over the next number of days to put pressure on, because we've seen the huge attack on our democracy over the last number of years. We've seen that through COVID-19, where there was huge attacks on basic democratic rights that ordinary people stood up and fought for. And now more than ever, it is crucially important that people now stand up for our rights and to take control of the country we love, the country many of our ancestors fought for and struggled for, and to put the needs of people first in our country. For instance, the needs of a right to a home, a right to a decent, dignified health service, a right to a dignified standard of living. But we've seen that being eroded as more and more people are being forced into poverty. And who benefits from the immigration chaos as well? It's the big bosses, big property owners, and a huge amount of money being made out of it as well. Not to mention what happened with the bank bailout, where the vulture funds came into Irish society at behest of the Troika, the European Central Bank, the European Union and the IMF, and devastated so many people in Ireland. And flies in the face of what people like Pearse, Connolly and many more struggled and gave their lives for freedom, for independence, for democracy. And this stands as a testament to what they stood for. And we have to continue that fight today and continue that battle today against our political establishment in Ireland that represent the interests of the super rich, the wealthy, and look down their noses at ordinary working class people. Because it is important also in the sovereign people that Patrick Pearse also said that the right and privilege to make laws or to administer laws does not reside in any class. And unfortunately now we've seen the power and privilege arrive in the ruling classes that serve the privileged, that serve the already wealthy, and serve the big corporations like the European Union with more centralised control, which is a huge attack on our sovereignty. And we've seen that happen so many times in our society in many years, especially with the political establishment, with the erosion of our rights, but also with the ceding of our control over our monetary fiscal policy and as well our currency. So these are critically important components to regaining our sovereignty, and it is very important that people now stand up against what the European Union project is about. It's neoliberalism, it's warmongering, it's imperialism. It's trying to exert their control at the behest of their masters in Washington DC, which is creating huge chaos across the continent of Europe and bringing us on the verge of World War III because of these psychopaths that aren't willing to look for peace, but willing to push this agenda to serve their interests, to look after the resources, minerals that will serve the interests of the big profiteers, and not to mention the military industrial complex who profit from this as well, and big corporations like Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street as well, who control so much of what's going on in society. So we need to stand up now more than ever for the love of where we're from, the love of the people, the love of our class, the love of the people who are struggling. We need to stand up together in Ireland against what's going on, and contact your local public representatives, start putting the pressure on them, ring them, email them, do whatever it takes to start putting pressure on to demand that they don't opt into this treaty, because this again is a huge threat of Irish sovereignty, again, which has huge ramifications for ours and for future generations. So thanks for joining me in the video today. Our history is crucially important, our culture is very important, our heritage is so important, and never forget the struggles of the past, because they got us to places we are now, and people now need to stand up against what's going on and demand that we bring the power back to our communities, back to our towns, back to our villages around our beautiful country of Ireland. So take care from St. Enda's in Rathfarnham. Take care. Talk to you all soon, and please press subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks. Slán. Bye bye.